Joining me now is Dr. Jonathan Schanzer, Senior Vice President at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Dr. Schanzer, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
As we sit here right now, we just passed the 5-month mark in the Israel-Hamas war. There have been temporary ceasefire talks, but the war is still ongoing. Can you talk about where we are right now and why there is not a temporary ceasefire yet?
Well, where we are now is that Israel has completed probably 80 to 90% of the hard work in Gaza, at least the way they describe it. They've gone from the north of the coastal enclave to the south. There's one town remaining, that is the town of Rafah. Rafah is literally sitting right on the Egyptian border. The problem for the Israelis is not whether or not they can conquer the town. They think they can. It's really actually a question of the 1.4 million displaced people that have sought shelter there, because as Israel has swept from the north of Gaza to the south, they've pushed the people further south to get away from the fighting. So now that the Israelis want to go into this last town, they're going to need to come up with a way of getting them to a safer place. They would prefer that these people move to the coast where the water table is high enough so that there would be no tunnels that Hamas could use to reach these places. And I think, though, there's other challenges as well. The Israelis, I think, are probably trying to deploy facial recognition software so they can, hopefully, from their perspective, flag the Hamas terrorists that are hiding amongst the civilians. But this is going to take some time. And the other thing that I think we need to be aware of here is that we're now in the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is not an excuse for terrorism and violence, but it has been used by Hamas to justify things like that. So the Israelis are trying to be very careful there as well. They don't want to ignite other fronts like in the West Bank or Jerusalem. So right now it appears that we're kind of just at a moment of pause. And that pause, I think, is even more pronounced because we are now watching the U.S. Openly challenge the Israelis on whether they should or shouldn't go into Rafah or when they go into Rafah. So, and I think those things, by the way, are really connected to our political cycle here. The president's base is one that probably doesn't particularly appreciate the fact that this war is even happening in the first place. So there's a big pause here in the fighting. The Israelis, I think, are trying to figure out where to go from here. I think they would like to have a ceasefire, but what we're hearing is that the Hamas leadership, specifically the leadership in Gaza, led primarily by Yahya Sinwar, they are refusing to make a deal. We're hearing that it's complex, that it's ongoing, that the talks are actually still happening, but at least for right now, Hamas is balking at a hostage deal.